I carry a gun because there are only two types of creatures on this planet, predators and prey. No one watches a cheetah chase down a gazelle and deny that the gazelle has the right to use its horns to protect itself. But there are people who would deny that same right of self-defense to other human beings. Such people seem to think that the way to stop the cheetah is to cut the horns off the gazelle. That somehow, if you make it easier for the predator will simply go away. It doesn't work that way. If you make it easier for the predator, you get more predators.
Gun control is legislation that places restrictions and limitations on the usage, ownership, and transactions of firearms. Legislation is enforced on a federal and state level and can include background checks, waiting periods, and registration requirements to purchase or sell guns. The strictness of gun control varies from state to state, ranging from California to Arizona, and is largely split on the rift of political parties. The Second Amendment was ratified in December 1791, and variations of gun control has existed ever since. In colonial America, it was required for the head of every household, including women, to own a gun in order to defend against Native Americans and other threats. The earliest form of gun control denied African Americans the right to own guns and banned the trading of firearms to Native Americans. The next major federal legislation took place in the 1930s under Franklin D. Roosevelt in response to the crimes of Al Capone and other notorious gangsters. The assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Robert F. Kennedy spurred President Lyndon B. Johnson to pass an act banning convicted felons and the mentally incompetent from owning firearms. The Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act, passed in 1993, required background checks on clients of gun transactions and has since performed over 225 million background checks. I'm Bailey Brown, and I'm against gun control because it violates our Second Amendment rights and does not deter crime. The Founding Fathers lived in a time when their freedoms were under attack, subject to British rule that held no value in individuals' freedom. The freedoms we now hold dear, the freedom of speech, of religion, and the right to bear arms, were neglected by the British and led to the Revolutionary War. After winning their independence, the Founding Fathers drafted the Constitution, which could not be ratified until the addition of the Bill of Rights, protecting the individual's freedoms the Founding Fathers had fought to secure. The Constitution is full of checks and balances, making sure ultimately the power is to the people. It is no mistake that the right to bear arms is the Second Amendment. The First Amendment gives us our most important rights, freedom of speech, religion, and press. The Second Amendment was laid as a safeguard to those rights from foreign invaders or the use of our federal government. And if the historical evidence isn't enough to prove to gun control advocates that the Second Amendment is an individual right, then there's syntactical evidence as well.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
The language of the Second Amendment prohibits the federal government from infringing on the rights of the people. As clear as the First Amendment's language of prohibiting Congress from infringing on the right of the people to religious expression, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press, the Second Amendment is also clearly a protector of rights.
Why did all of the big media focus their attention on the attacks in Orlando and completely ignore the fact that the following weekend 52 people were shot in Chicago, a city with some of the strictest gun control laws in the country? There seems to be an agenda for gun control while ignoring the gun violence in other cities and countries where the experiment of gun control is already underway and failing.
The right to bear arms also exists so Americans can defend themselves and their families from predators who seek to do them harm. States that legalized concealed carry saw an immediate drop in homicide rates. Cities that require citizens to own firearms saw an 89% decrease in home invasions. And every year in the United States, guns are used 300 times more often to save lives than to take lives and prevent 2.5 million crimes per year. A gun is just a tool, and fact is, disarming a law-abiding citizens won't stop evil from happening. The 9/11 terrorists used box cutters, Timothy McVeigh used bags of fertilizers, and a recent terrorist attack used rented trucks. Society is trying to find something to blame, but it's time to stop blaming guns.
There's certain things in this world that we're just not going to be able to eliminate. This is evil. It's evil, and it's personified with what happened in Oregon a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, I'm smarter than that, and the American people are smarter than that too.